What if Revan awakened in the Phantom Menace and saved Qui-Gon Jinn? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The Theed royal palace hums with the clash of lightsabers, the air thick with tension as the Jedi and Sith circle each other for the first time in centuries. And then, the Sith strike. Darth Maul rushes forward, his lightsaber a blur of speed and precision, driving Qui-Gon Jinn back toward the plasma gates. He is unused to fighting against a double-bladed saber. The movements are twice as fast and come from the most unusual angles, leaving him unable to halt their attacks as effectively. Behind him, Qui-Gon Jinn bangs his fist against the energy barrier that leaves him trapped and unable to help his master. Qui-Gon breathes heavily, sweat beading on his forehead. He deflects a flurry of strikes, but Maul is unrelenting, each blow heavier than the last. Then, an opening. Maul feigns high before pivoting low, his saber cutting through the air toward Qui-Gon's midsection. And then it happens. The Force trembles, a pressure, ancient and immense, ripples through the ground. A deep hum vibrates and plasma gates flicker, distorting for the briefest moment, letting Obi-Wan rush in, but also someone else. Cloaked in a war-torn robe, dark armor peeking through the fabric, he emerges from the unseen depths of the Force itself. His presence is overwhelming, raw, commanding, and his red Mandalorian mask only adds to his appearance. He cocks his head in confusion before glancing over towards Maul. Revan has returned. Maul snarls, instincts screaming danger. He pivots, redirecting his momentum against the new threat, but Revan moves faster. Without thought, without hesitation, he extends his hand. An invisible shockwave slams into Maul, launching him backward like a ragdoll. He crashes into the Durasteel wall, denting it on impact before tumbling to the floor in a crouch. His yellow eyes burn with fury as he steadies himself. But he does not attack. He watches. He calculates. Qui-Gon, still catching his breath, pushes himself up, gaze locked on the warrior before him.
Who are you? I am Revan.
Qui-Gon's eyes widen as that name is like a thunderbolt across his body. A name spoken with fear. A name worthy of awe. And one of infamy.
I also know what he is. A Sith. Oh, good. I didn't find one of the stupid Jedi.
Maul growls and lunges. His saber spins in a crimson arc toward Revan's throat. Revan moves, channeling the Force to his side and halting Maul's attack in midair, as if held in place by an invisible hand. He is hurled backward once more, this time smashing through a control console. Sparks shower around him as he crashes to the floor. Snarling, Maul pushes himself up. His gaze flickers between Revan and Qui-Gon. The battle has changed. This is no longer a duel. It is a battle of unknowns. And the Sith Lord knows better than to fight an enemy he does not yet understand. Without a word, Maul retreats, vanishing into the depths of the palace corridors. Silence follows.
Master, who is this?
A legend.
Thankfully, the rest of the battle goes well as Padme captures Nute Gunray and the droid control ship is destroyed, leaving the droids to deactivate. But as there is celebration, Qui-Gon and Revan stand at the edge of a balcony overlooking Theed.
So you wish to join me in training Anakin? You are powerful, but power alone is not enough. And what would be enough? Balance. Wisdom. I've seen what happens when the Jedi forget their purpose. I sense you have seen the same, and yet I find no balance in you.
Revan has seen it. He has lived it, and now, without full memory, he feels the truth of it crawling at the edges of his mind.
The Republic is crumbling. War is coming. Yes, and it is the boy who will be at its center. When it does, it is not the balance you will be looking for. It is power. The Council has refused to train him, but I will not abandon him. If you wish to help, I will not begrudge an extra pair of hands.
The cold wind howls across the barren wastelands of Morrowind. The sky is a whirling storm of darkness. Lightning cracks in the distance, illuminating the jagged peaks of Sith ruins. Anakin Skywalker stands between Qui-Gon Jinn and Revan. One thing they agree on is that Anakin cannot be trained as a normal Jedi. He must understand the ways of the living Force, which is why they brought him here. At first, Anakin is confused and a little bit frightened. The Force here seems simply like a dark cloud, giving him nothing but a sense of wrongness. They explain that this is a planet strong in the dark side. The force here is suffocating, pressing against him like an unseen hand. It makes his skin prickle. His breath catches in his throat. They tell him his job here is to meditate and connect with the force.
How can I listen when it's so loud?
Then quiet yourself. Even the world is screaming at you. A Jedi must not hear it. Some say to ignore this call, but that is not the answer. Let it flow through you, not at you. You are not separate from the Force, Anakin.
Anakin closes his eyes, takes a slow breath. He reaches outward, letting the Force wash over him. At first, it is nearly impossible to understand, like 1,000 voices speaking over each other. But through Revan and Qui-Gon's advice, they have Anakin focus on a single point. The whispers become clear. Not words, not voices, but feelings. Hunger, desperation, hate. They gnaw at his senses, pulling at his mind.
Good. Do not push them away. Acknowledge them. Understand them. But do not let them take hold.
Anakin exhales, steadying himself. He feels the darkness, but he does not drown in it. And then it becomes more audible as sounds. Growls, hisses. He realizes this is a creature. The emotions it rings out hammer Anakin, urging him to feel the same way and wanting to share its hunger and anger. Then a second voice cuts through the air, sharp, commanding.
Now resist it.
Anakin's eyes snap open. Revan steps forward, eyes locked on him.
The Force is a river, but it can also be a storm. You must learn to be the rock against the current. Darkness will always call to you, Anakin. It will always try to pull you in. If you do not resist, if you do not reject it, it will consume you. You must learn to resist its call, and sever it.
Anakin turns to Qui-Gon. Though the Jedi Master frowns, he nods his head in agreement. The two begin teaching him to push back. As the clawing of the creature grows stronger, they tell Anakin to exhale, letting the Force within him take action and to beat it back. As their energies collide with Anakin, he tenses and squirms around, trying to make sense of it all. The two wills battle inside him until at last he manages to push the beast away. The tension lingers between them, but neither presses forward. But then Revan nods.
Excellent. Did you feel the creature's location before you pushed it aside?
I did.
Excellent. Then let's go hunting.
It turns out the creature Anakin detected was none other than a Tukata. As they approach, a whole pack of them appears, glaring at them and baring their teeth. Revan walks ahead of them, silent, his presence unwavering as he ignites his lightsaber.
The Force connects all living things. Some use that connection to guide, others to manipulate. But a warrior learns to use it as a weapon.
Anakin swallows. He knows what this is, a test. Qui-Gon had taught him to connect, to feel the life around him, to understand it. Revan was teaching him something else. Suddenly, the Tukata lunge forward. The first one that leaps is swiftly cut down. Revan sidesteps the second, which rushes towards Anakin until Qui-Gon drives his lightsaber in its back. Anakin stretches out with the Force, feeling the great beast's presence ahead. As the third appears, he channels the Force to throw it back. But even as he knocks it aside, Revan is in the thick of fighting. His lightsaber is a whirlwind of destruction. While Qui-Gon fights defensively, Revan rushes into the heart of the action. A growl pulls Anakin away as a Tukata lunges at him. He suddenly feels an overwhelming hunger wash over him as the beast opens its jaws. Acting on instinct, Anakin severs their connection and shoves the creature away with the Force. Taking a moment to catch his breath, Anakin looks over at Revan. He feels the passion and rage within him, not in tandem, but two separate entities, clashing just as he fights. There is also another thing, joy. The joy of fighting and killing. Soon enough, the rest of the Tukata retreat or are slain. Revan walks over to him and nods.
Well done.
However, this is far from over, as the two take Anakin all across the galaxy to train him. Over the years, they go to Dagobah, to Dantooine, to Dathomir, and the smoking ruins of Malachor. They travel across the Outer Rim, connecting with people in the galaxy that become increasingly divided. Their arrival comes at a fortuitous time, as the Outer Rim seems permanently rocked in crisis after crisis. New wars, gangs enlarging their foothold, and secessionist cries all grow and develop across the region. While it certainly gives them plenty to connect to, it leaves Anakin struggling to overcome the chaos that is happening all around him. Instead of just Sith beasts, now it is people who release the dark emotions. Doubt, fear, anger, and frustration are everywhere he goes. But unlike the Tucatas, he cannot simply kill them this time. Here is where Revan offers him another strategy to deal with these emotions. Action. Just as he ended the dark influence of those Sith beasts by slaying them, he encourages Anakin to act and find those responsible to bring them to justice. On a certain level, Qui-Gon agrees and tries to help people however he can. The problem is he no longer has the Jedi's resources and can only do so much. He volunteers in different places, doing small acts as charity. Things like helping heal the sick, rebuilding a shattered village, and escorting travelers. To some extent, they do help Anakin feel better, but the darkness persists, and instead Revan offers a new step. He says that while not wrong, Qui-Gon's actions are too reactive and suggests something proactive. While they were escorting a group of merchants, they overhear some news of a slaver ship transporting a group of captives to a local warlord. The two find the ship in a canyon, its landing gear planted firmly on the ground as the slavers load the last of their captives onto the ship. Twin moons cast pale light across the desert floor, their glow flickering over the weathered hull. Inside, beyond layers of rusted durasteel, people huddle together, frightened, shackled, waiting for a fate they can already imagine. Anakin crouches on the ridge, sensing their presence, sensing the fear and uncertainty in them. He uses it to fuel himself, ensuring he acts with certainty. Below, patrol droids march, their sensors sweeping the perimeter. A shadow moves beside him. Revan.
Remember what I told you. Don't fight the darkness, and don't let it control you. Use it. Channel it. Focus it. Make it serve you.
Anakin swallows, his fingers tightening around his lightsaber. And then he leaps off the ridge, landing in the middle of 4 droids. He spreads his arms out and throws them all back, letting their sparking bodies litter the valley floor. The slavers gasp and whirl toward him, blasters raised. Revan drops from above, his weapon flashing. The fight is over in seconds. Anakin approaches the ship, his lightsaber slashes through the locking mechanism. The door hisses, then groans open. The slavers barely have time to reach for their weapons. Revan moves like a phantom, his blade cutting through their ranks with ruthless precision. Anakin follows, striking down those who resist, disabling those who surrender. The air is thick with the scent of burnt metal, the echo of bodies hitting the floor. The captives stare at them, uncertain.
Free them.
As Anakin removes their shackles, Revan pilots the ship to a nearby town, letting the people out and letting them keep their ship, the slavers' weapons, and whatever equipment they need. Their leader thanks them, and Anakin feels another sensation wash over him. Where there was fear and doubt, something new stirs, a power buried long ago. Hope. The two return back to their camp in a festive mood. They trade smiles, and Revan offers praise to the young Jedi. But as they make their way back to their shelter, Qui-Gon is waiting for them with his arms crossed.
It's done.
And what have we done, Revan?
We freed them. We did what the Jedi should be doing. We are warriors, and warriors take action.
We're peacekeepers. We're meant to help these people, not act as vigilantes. You're leading him down a dangerous path.
I'm giving him something the Jedi never did. The ability to choose, to act, to be what a Jedi is meant to be. Are you saying that I shouldn't have freed those slaves?
No. I do not make things as simple as they are. You may be right, but I simply ask you this. Where do we draw the line? When is our meddling too much? Who will hold us accountable when we make a mistake? These are the lessons Anakin must learn before we do something like this.
You'd be surprised what guilt can do to someone's conscience. It can work better than any law.
And what should happen if the gangsters decide to retaliate?
We deal with them too.
So we would get involved in politics, just as the Jedi.
Getting involved in politics? Yes, we are. But not under the Jedi. Not under the Chancellor. We decide where we go, who we help, how we help. That's for us to decide.
The road to the dark side is paved with good intentions, Revan.
And yet, we keep walking.
Anakin listens to both sides, but finds himself gravitating towards Revan more. He had to admit their actions that day made him feel good, far better than he's felt in a long time since he began this training, and when Revan offers to take him to more missions like this, he readily agrees. Soon enough, the two of them are raiding pirate dens, freeing more slaves, and hunting down warlords. Although Qui-Gon does try to dissuade them, neither one seems interested in slowing down. Anakin grows stronger with each passing year, but he feels himself pulled apart. Where Qui-Gon sees the Force as a current to ride, Revan teaches Anakin to command the tide itself. But while he sees Revan as a hero, Qui-Gon sees something else, something more dangerous. Imbalance. He's heard stories of the Jedi Master before and studied his life. Back in the day, Revan was infamous for his iron discipline, his control, and pragmatism. But now he grows more into a loose cannon, not letting himself slow down. Little does he know that there is a growing turmoil within the ancient Jedi. When he lived during the time of the Old Republic, he found it in a time just like this, full of turmoil and corruption. A part of him sees this again and takes it personally, as if it is his job to prevent it from happening again. Although he refuses to admit it, Revan does not let his emotions factor in. His anger and frustration, but most of all his rage. He doesn't just kill those to bring them to justice. He kills them out of satisfaction and bloodlust. He wants to make them pay, and perhaps none more than Nute Gunray. Despite being arrested for his involvement in the Naboo crisis, the Neimoidian remains influential, and the right bribes allow him to avoid prison time, instead being sent to Cato Neimoidia for house arrest, secured by battle droids and Neimoidian guards. This is too much for Anakin and Revan, who, after seeing everything the Viceroy has done, are disgusted at how easily he is being let go. Their anger is so great that they decide to take the matter into their own hands. The two make their way to Cato Neimoidia, sprinting across the suspended bridges as the pair sneak into the pleasure house that Nute Gunray calls his prison. The few guards there don't seem to notice them as they slip through the shadows. That is until Revan's lightsaber flashes, sending their bodies toppling over the edge. There is a surge of excitement in Revan as he watches them fall. The Neimoidian guards soon spot them and panic, their blasters firing wildly as the pair deflect their shots and cut them down. They step over the bodies without a word. This wasn't war, it was a culling. Gunray, clad in silken robes, hears of this attack and hurries down the steps, tripping over his robes as he hears the sound of fighting drawing closer. He barely manages to reach the patio when he stumbles to the ground and a pair of figures appear.
I can pay you. Triple. No, 5 times whatever you want.
You think this is about credits? This is justice. A long time coming.
Anakin's grip on his lightsaber tightens as he pictures Padme having to deal with this slime. He recalls how Nute Gunray occupied her city, enslaved her people, and killed the Gungans. He sees the Trade Federation's occupation of Naboo. He saw the starving citizens, the powerless guards, the suffering that Gunray had bought and sold with impunity.
You don't deserve to live. This is murder.
This is justice.
Anakin hesitates. There is something raw in Revan's voice, something unchecked. The longer he held Gunray, the more the shadows around him seemed to stretch, feeding off his anger. Anakin raises his lightsaber and brings it down, ending the Viceroy's life in a snap. Revan nods in approval as the two head out. When they return to Qui-Gon, the Jedi Master gives them a look of disapproval, saying they might not realize what they have unleashed. Unfortunately, Qui-Gon is right, as little did they know that Nute Gunray was a part of the burgeoning CIS Council, and seeing one of their members being killed by a Jedi sends them into a frenzy. They demand immediate retribution. As Revan and Anakin have no allies, Dooku finds them easy prey to test their new droid army. Their first escape is from Cato Neimoidia's moon, where they make their camp. Commando droids drop from the ridges, their red photoreceptors glowing as blaster fire rains down. Anakin deflects what he can, but there are too many. Revan carves through the closest droids, but more take their place, pouring out of transport ships landing. They hijack a Neimoidian freighter, blasting through the blockade just as more separatist ships arrive. From there, the chaos doesn't stop. On Ryloth, they barely make it to the Twilight Deserts before vulture droids scream down from the skies, obliterating their cover. Revan fights like a man possessed, but his frustration grows with every battle. The droids are soulless. You can't feed off them, can't manipulate them. Anakin watches as his master grows more aggressive, more reckless. There are so many of them. an entire army's worth of droids that just appear from nowhere. On Baldemnik, they hope to lose their pursuers in the storm-racked oceans, but Dooku anticipates their plan. Squads of Magna Guards deploy ahead of time, their electrostaffs crackling in the rain. The fright is brutal. Anakin barely pulls Revan from the wreckage of a crumbling temple before they escape off-world. None of this makes sense. The huge army, the relentless chase, and their situation. To try and make sense of it, Qui-Gon decides to depart and try to gather more information. But as they retreat, Dooku decides to turn his attention to the people they once helped. The Separatists know their game. Punish those who harbor them, enslave entire villages as retribution. Revan watches in horror as settlements burn, as innocents suffer because of his actions. And for the first time, he has no way to stop it. Anakin doesn't understand why Qui-Gon is gone. At first, he assumes the old master has abandoned them. Revan, too, is furious. He fights harder, strikes deeper, hoping to carve his answers from the galaxy. But Qui-Gon does not return, and every battle leaves them more alone. The war machines feel endless, like a vice tightening with every jump to hyperspace. Then, after weeks of fleeing, a transmission reaches them. Qui-Gon's voice, calm but urgent. The answers are on Dathomir. Anakin wants to argue. Revan is suspicious, but they have no other options. Their latest stolen ship is barely holding together. Separatist starships are already in pursuit, and droids start to surround them, firing upon the ship until its alarm begins to blare. Cursing, the two have no choice but to bail out. They ignite their lightsabers, blocking the blaster fire, and try to hold them back. Revan and Anakin unleash a burst of force power, throwing them back as the two rush in, starting to cut their way through the droid forces. Hundreds fall on the ground, but more take their place and leave the two on a small rise as the droids arrive. Just as the droids begin their assault, a new presence emerges from the shadows. A captured freighter appears, and Night Sisters emerge from the doorway, firing their energy bows at the droids, keeping the droids back as the ship lands.
You are expected. Come with us.
The last thing Anakin sees before the ship jolts into the planet's atmosphere is Revan's wary expression as the Night Sisters extend their hands in welcome. Anakin and Revan step out onto the rocky terrain, looking up at the reddish sky and towering trees, their branches writhing like grasping hands. The air is thick with dark energy, but both have too much on their mind to fall for it. The Night Sisters lead them back to their fortress, where Mother Talzin stands. To their surprise, Qui-Gon is there too.
You made it. I should have listened to you, Qui-Gon. My anger blinded me.
Perhaps, but you weren't entirely wrong. The Republic is rotten, and Palpatine is the Sith Lord behind it all. Your actions upset their plans and forced them to act. Everything shall be revealed.
Long ago, Sith took much from me, from my people. My son was stolen by this Sith Lord to be used as his apprentice, Darth Maul. But he returned to us, thanks to you. For that, we owe you a debt. Now we shall help you upset their plans.
A shadow moves from the mist, stepping into the flickering torchlight. Maul, his yellow eyes burning with intensity as he assesses the newcomers.
Count Dooku is coming. He will bring his droids, his war machines, his cruelty. Let them come. My master threw me aside when I failed him. Now I shall make sure he pays too.
So what do? We take a page from your book, Revan. We fight. We must end the war here before it can spread out.
Soon enough, they hear the sound of metallic feet marching their way. The Night Sisters all waste no time and arm themselves, leaping into the shadows with their blades and bows as Maul ignites his saber staff. The forest soon comes alive with the sound of combat as both sides trade fire. The Night Sisters move like phantoms, rushing in and striking down their opponents with otherworldly speed. Their movements are fast and aggressive, slicing through the slow-moving storm as Darth Maul stands in the center, his saber staff spinning as he blocks blaster fire and holds them down. And then, lightning emerges from the trees as Talzin joins in. But as this happens, Dooku strides through the battlefield, ignoring the Night Sisters as he makes his way over towards the three warriors.
Qui-Gon, I warned you once about getting involved in affairs beyond your control. You should have listened. and I warned you that you were following the wrong master. Let's see if I can finally make you believe it.
Revan and Anakin flank him, rushing from either side, but Dooku pulls back and deflects their lightsabers, one at a time before thrusting forward and forcing them to scatter. Qui-Gon forces his saber down and tries to hold it there to disarm him. However, neither side gives him a chance to relax, as they both strike at him again. Instead of avoiding, Dooku moves in to strike, letting his momentum carry him forward, just as he switches to a slash at Revan. The ancient Jedi leaps back and finds himself on the defensive, while Dooku rains down attacks on him.
You know Palpatine has been deceiving you. That's the nature of the Sith. Why play into his womp rat race?
Perhaps for a relic like you, but I understand this game. I know how to win it.
Dooku leaps back when he sees his strike failing to crack Revan's defenses, just as Anakin strikes at him. In response, he unleashes a barrage of lightning. However, the young Jedi deflects it and comes rushing in. He expects an easier time from Anakin, but the Jedi's movements are unusually refined and graceful. Rather than break under his attack, Anakin meets them. He doesn't rise to the bait and instead holds his ground and advances slowly, methodically. Dooku grits his teeth. He disengages with a flourish and looks toward the battlefield. Droids being torn apart by Night Sisters, Maul carving through their ranks like a beast unleashed. His expression darkens, his confidence wavering. But before he can relax entirely, Qui-Gon rushes in. He aims a strike high that Dooku deflects, but the younger Jedi shoves him back with a kick, and then sweeps low, forcing the Count to leap up.
The Jedi failed you, but that doesn't mean you must fail yourself. Join us. Help us expose Palpatine.
I advise you listen to him. Your former Padawan is a lot wiser than he looks.
Indeed. He stopped me from making mistakes in the past.
Dooku hesitates. The battle rages around them, but in this moment, the war within his soul is far greater. The years of lies, of manipulation, of following a master he had never fully trusted. All of it weighs on him. Finally, he exhales, deactivating his lightsaber. As the last of the droids are defeated, Dooku offers to testify, revealing the information about the CIS Council and how it helped influence Nute Gunray's early release. He makes sure that all the members of the CIS are caught up in this, as well as Palpatine. But these claims are backed up with fact, as Dooku also presents some of the documents he's gathered over the years to back up his claim. Palpatine is stunned by this and can barely react as he's ordered to be arrested. With the Jedi and Senate against him, he has little choice but to bow his head in defeat and accept it, as he is in no position to challenge them. In the meantime, the Jedi begin a thorough investigation to understand everything that happened and how they could have missed something so important. Here, Revan and Qui-Gon are welcomed back, while Anakin is sent to help restore peace in the Outer Rim. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.